Hello, and welcome to Creepycore and Folklore, the show about creatures, encounters, old tales, and myths. I'm your host, Iona Wayland, a dark fantasy author, mental health professional, and overall curious person. I want to join other spooky souls and hear about these unusual stories. Hello, spooky soul, and welcome back to this super special episode where it's the 70th and I'm fighting myself to keep from doing a mega deep dive like I usually did every 10th episode, but I do want this one to be special. So I am having my second ever in-person interview with my brother Caleb. And today we're going to talk about a special interest of his, which are sitars or sitars. I never know where the emphasis should be and on which syllable I should put that emphasis. But I was really intrigued with some of the stuff he was sharing with me. He's new to learning about them, and he actually has a sitar that he's learning how to play. I think he's slightly mastered the Paint It Black song. Which is awesome. And I might have him play some and send me the recording of it so that I can add it into the episode. But welcome, Caleb.
Hi, so I'm Caleb. I have a background in game development. And this is my first instrument that I've been learning how to play because guitar just wasn't really my thing. But sitar is quite a fun experience and a very joyous challenge.
Also, of course, Kachu is here. Do you want to say something, Kachu?
So I'm in game design, and I thought so I've done pretty much next to nothing with music. So I know a scale, but I don't really know what to do with that yet. But my goal is to be proficient enough to be able to interject some of my playing into the games that I make. Also, the reason I want to learn sitar in the traditional way, with a guru and with the mizrab, which is the special pick, is so I can learn the rules so I can break them properly and then infuse them into Western music, such as rock and roll. So if you were unaware, in the late 1960s, sitar became quite a musical staple, almost to the point where if you look back at the culture of the late 60s, the sitar pretty much was almost a mainstay, similar to a keyboard or a jazz organ. It was it kind of stopped. Its popularity went away into the 70s, but it could have been a musical staple up until modern times, but instead it was kind of a fad. However, you have most likely heard it in songs like Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones, The End by the Doors, Indian Summer by the Doors. Sitar is also used in more abrasive ways. Wherever I May Roam by Metallica uses a sitar in the beginning. Redbone, the band, in Come and Get Your Love, they use an electric sitar.
Oh, I didn't know that. I love that song. And Redbone is a really cool indigenous band.
Yeah, I really like them. Beaded Dreams Through Turquoise Eyes is probably a great example of how versatile the electric sitar can be. It's the Dan Electro Choral Sitar, if you were interested and wanted to look it up. That's what it's called. There's also The Cure uses a song, and it's If Only Tonight We Could Sleep. That whole track is sitar. There's also Ravi Shankar's, one of his sons, experimented with the Moog synthesizers, which is what you hear a lot in the 80s, and he played sitar over them. He did covers of songs. So he has a self-titled album that's really cool, and it's worth checking out because it's a lot of like rock songs, but it's covered by sitar. Ananda Shankar is the son's name from the 80s. I guess this is the 70s. Interesting. Anyway, he experiments with the synthesizer. And I really want to mention Shocking Blue because they are a Netherlands rock band from the 60s and 70s, and they incorporate sitar a lot into their stuff. It's probably the best example of raga rock, as in they have Aka Raga is one of their songs, and it is entirely instrumental, but it's like a Western like drum set played along with a sitar, and it's very cool. They also have songs like Love Buzz, which feature like a sitar solo and a bunch of stuff. They have a female vocalist, and Love Buzz was so popular that Nirvana covered them on their first album on Bleach. There's a song called Love Buzz, and that's a 60s song from Shocking Blue. Hot Sand is another one that features sitar predominantly, and I Am a Woman is the other sitar song that I really like. They have a few others, but they're worth checking out. Their music's very cool. And then the Beatles also used the sitar a bunch. In fact, Ravi Shankar, that I will talk about later, taught George Harrison how to play the sitar. So the Beatles used the sitar in Love You Too, Norwegian Wood, All Across the Universe, and a few other songs. Also, the very first example of sitar use is the Yardbirds, which is Eric Clapton's like first band, or first successful band that he was a part of, and they used sitar. That was like their first one. Norwegian Wood was the first recording released to the public. So it was all kind of the Indian sound influence was all coming in it around the same time, which is like the mid to late 60s.
I know that when Caleb started telling me about the sitar, I was really surprised of how much I had already heard songs with it in it, with the sitar in it and the sitar sound. And it has just such like a very beautiful yet unique sound to it. And we'll get more into it in a little bit, but it's supposed to encompass the human voice. So the sitar is a stringed instrument, and it's made out of a gourd, or it used to be. And it comes from India and South Asia in particular. And not only does it have an odd sound to it, one that like encapsulates the vocal range, but it also has a spiritual significance that we'll get into in a little bit. It's supposed to bridge the gap between the material world and the metaphysical world, and kind of bringing this like transcendent auditory experience to the person playing, but also the person listening. So it actually has roots to an older instrument called the veena. And that also, it looks very similar, but it evolved into the instrument it is today. And the modern form that it took on by like the gourd shape resonator and like a long fretted neck is from around the 18th century. And it's really cool to see that it really hasn't changed much since then at all. So it's part of this interesting family of instruments. So sitar is included in that, the surbahar, and then also the tampura, but some people kind of debate whether or not it belongs in the sitar family. The tampura is the drone sound. The surbahar is the deep sound that you'll hear. Probably if you looked up any kind of instrumentation or like group of people that all play the sitar together, there's most likely you'll hear that low note in the background. Basically the bass sitar is what the surbahar is. So it has this deep spirituality with it. It's said to connect anyone who plays it to like a different realm, basically like the spiritual realm. There's even Saraswati who is the goddess of like music and art and singing and all sorts of beautiful things. And then she's seen as playing the old form of the sitar, the veena, in her depiction. So if you look up Saraswati, you'll see her holding the veena on her throne. But those playing and those listening are said to kind of go into this meditative state, which I think is very interesting. And it's said to kind of connect you to that other side.
Most notably, right around when the sitar was being used in Western music, basically the pioneer of the music to the Western world was Ravi Shankar, and he's the guy who taught George Harrison how to play from the Beatles, and he also performed. Ravi Shankar performed at Woodstock. He was that masterful that he was able to like bridge the cultural barrier of being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play my sitar at this big rock show. So that's super cool. A sitar has roughly like 18 to 20 strings. It varies based on some of the styles, and some musicians have very like specific needs or wants, so like it's kind of modular. But so you're tuning all those strings up, and they're friction tuners, which means that it's just a piece of wood jammed into another piece of wood, and so you use like chalk to make them like stick better. So it's not the most reliable tuning. So for one of the performances, Ravi Shankar was tuning up, and the after he was finished tuning, the crowd was like, "Yes, this is amazing," and he was like, "Oh, if you like my tuning, I really hope you like my playing." So that was really, anyway, that's really funny. Also, right around the sitar, the reason the sitar is associated so closely with not so much rock and roll, but the drug culture around the 60s is because it's right around that LSD wasn't illegal yet. So also that so like acid became very popular around that time, and because the sitar has it like buzzes, it has like the note goes higher and then it comes back down in like the same like strum or pluck. People are like, whoa, what is this sound? It sounded like a bit foreign to the Western ears. And on top of that, the spirituality is often conflated with the dissociative state of LSD. So they both are both are being promoted, and there's a bit of overlap, but not the kind you'd really want as a sitarist, like wanting to please your audience. So Ravi Shankar famously stated in one of his interviews, he was like, I'm so upset that people keep coming to my shows high because I can't make them high with my music.
It's already happening.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting how it's used as like this transcendent musical instrument that helps you connect with the gods, or a meditative state or a dissociative state. I think it's really like, it can show like the power of music and certain instrumentation. But just like Caleb was saying, where there are these like shifts in pitch, and it has these really like, the way you can slide the note around, it has the ability to make like really, really subtle expressions with its like quote unquote voice. It allows the sitar to create music that's both like soothing and contemplative, and it's a very powerful tool for meditation and spiritual introspection. And like I said before, it's associated with the goddess Saraswati, and it also kind of meshed into something called raga rock, and something that Caleb and I both can't quite wrap our mind around what raga is. It's like this traditional melodic framework but that uses the sitar music, but it's more than a musical scale. So like each raga can be associated with like a time of day, a season, an emotion. And because it's used to like express so fully, like there's such a huge scale for expressing and evoking those emotions and spiritual states, that these intricacies of a raga are often seen as like spiritual guides that are leading their listeners on a meditative journey, which makes sense as to why Ravi Shankar was so like upset, because he's like, you like pre-gamed too hard and you're not able to experience, because you induced a dissociative state or a meditative state from like substances when I wanted you to come here and us all experience it together, because I'm leading you there, or what I'm playing, those musical notes are your meditative guide, instead of just everyone doing their own thing. It was supposed to be a bit more collective than that. So when, you look at the sitar, you hear the sitar, it has these beautiful spiritual ties. It has transcendence. It has these connections with not only the musician, not just the listeners, not just the instrument, but like to a higher power on top of that like these just beautifully stringed instruments are just connecting people to each other in the universe as a whole. And I think that kind of harmony is something that to be really admired and understood. And I'm excited that Caleb and I get to go to see Ravi Shankar's daughter. She's considered like the most prolific and like renowned and like famous, I would say, sitar player or musician in the Western world at the very least, but might even be the entire world. And we get to see her in her orchestra or like band, but I think it's more of an orchestra. There's like 6 other people and then her. But we'll get to go and see her play. And I'm so excited about it. And I'm really excited that Caleb invited me, because this will be a fun experience. Especially because most of the time she's very like exclusive and not like world touring or anything really often. But Caleb, before you go, thank you for being here. I'm going to have you talk about where we can find you and some of the work that you're interested in doing.
So my developer name is Triple C. I can do Photoshop pretty well. I can design like covers and like t-shirts and posters and stuff like that. I do game development, systems design. I'm in my master's program for information architecture, which is like the philosophy behind website design and configuration.
All his information will be in the show notes below, so you can check him out. But before you go, I have a fun game that we can play, Creepy Core Edition. Are you ready?
Yes.
Would you rather sell your soul to be able to play historical sitar or rock and roll sitar?
I would do rock and roll sitar. I'm trying to learn sitar the correct way, or the traditional way, because the sitar is designed as a classical instrument. Like that's its purpose. And you're basically only playing one string. So it's mastery of like strumming that one string. So it's slightly limited in its capacity to make different noises like an electric guitar would be. But it offers, and it has so much precedent that it would be very fun to like jam out with like modern like conventions.
Next question is, would you rather be able to meet Saraswati, the goddess, or Ravi Shankar?
Most likely the goddess.
That was hard though.
It was kind of hard because I don't know. Ravi Shankar seems like a pretty cool guy, but meeting the I guess the keeper of all of the from how it's described, the sitar is just the path that you follow to gain enlightenment from Saraswati. So just meeting them directly seems like a pretty straightforward approach.
Okay, last question is, if you could make a transcendent experience as you're listening to or playing sitar music, would you rather be able to kind of like go deep into your subconscious psyche, or be able to astral project into the collective consciousness?
I think the astral projection would be pretty cool, because it would kind of be like, oh, this instrument is my like superpower. That's how it would kind of like present itself. Or it almost like a vessel to be able to go traveling. Yeah. So that's also pretty cool to think about.
Very cool. I don't know if that's actually like how sitars work, or what the transcendental experience is like when you're listening to it. I don't know if it's like the goal is to astral project. That's just my very like limited knowledge about it, but it's really cool to imagine. And I guess we'll experience it together when we get to see Anushka Shankar in all of her glory play her beautiful, beautiful music. I can't wait for this experience. I don't know what to expect. I almost feel like I'm gonna like float away or something. I'm excited. But thanks for listening to us blab about an instrument we're both just learning about, and experiencing some like curiosity about its origins with us. But thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks to all you spooky souls out there for listening to Creepy Core and Folklore. Follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok if you're looking for more uncanny content. If you have your own tales to tell, you can email creepycoreandfolklore@gmail.com. If you liked this, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, or tell a friend who might enjoy these stories to spread the word. If you're interested in dark fantasy, check out my Hollowverse series. Ashes is available now in paperback and ebook on Amazon and audiobook on Audible, and the sequel is underway. I'm Iona Wayland, and I'll see you next time.